Welcome back to the weird and the wonderful with Strange Bones. That's me. And we are going to do something a little bit different tonight, because it seems that people are not so keen on what we were doing, so we're going to do something different. Welcome to Wilhelmina. I hope you're having a fine and fabulous evening. And to Launch the Player, welcome, welcome. So, it is after all Halloween, and in honor of all of that, we are going to see what we can do. Welcome to Multidot. So, an interesting topic that came up. Did you know, or did you notice, that in fact, over the years, one of the things which seems to be almost a central to horror is the idea of a cursed book. It seems to be something that picks up no matter what, which is an interesting little tidbit, and one wonders why. And there actually is a fairly reasonable answer. Not only is it that, well, as people, we do love our horror. It's something that seems to inspire us on so many, many levels. But historically speaking, it's interesting to note that, by and large, the idea of being able to read and write is a very modern peculiarity for people. So, in fact, for a very long time, it was only the elite that could read and write. Excuse me. So, for almost everybody, books were a thing of mystery, something just unknown. And in my research for doing this particular live, I discovered a curious little fact, if you will, that the word grimoire, which refers to a book of magic, comes from the Old French. And in fact, translated, it means incomprehensible. So books have always been something that for most people were entirely incomprehensible, and therefore not to be trusted. John Wick, welcome, and thank you so much for the likes. So I thought that for tonight's live we would look at something a little different and look at the most horrifying books, both from real life and, in fact, from stories. Now, on our list we've got a number of suitably cursed books, some of which are very, very real, and some of which are not, and one or two of which we very often might think were real, but aren't. And so, with that said, as you know, we go around, we look at things that are said. Jay, welcome, welcome, welcome. How are you? Are you ready for a suitably terrifying live? Something creepy. I do hope you are.
Hey, I'm not gonna be up for the such a live. I have bad news.
No problem at all, but are you in good
I'm
health
moving to
and
a new
doing
school
well?
tomorrow.
Yes, you have to attend to schools and such, do you not? But
Yeah, but I'm
nevertheless,
moving to a new one.
oh, you're moving to a new one. That's a bit of an upheaval. Why?
So The other school just wants money. They're saying we have to give them 30,000 rand for the orphanage or something like that.
Good Lord, that's rather a lot.
And they're doing something illegal where you have to it's illegal for like to pay for a card, like to like swipe your card. It's illegal to do that.
Yeah, that is a bit strange. Yes, it sounds dodged to me. Well,
Oh, and I learned something,
Oh, yes?
but it won't work on my microphone because every time I go this close, it does that sound.
Okay. And what was it, though?
You know how like in the metal bands when they like scream and it has that like terrifying scream?
Yeah.
That I don't know how it's like a bear.
Yes.
Yeah, I just learned to do that.
Okay. So are you going to join a metal band in
No,
future?
no, never. It's demonic.
Well,
Sometimes.
sometimes. But,
Oh, what are we gonna be talking about?
well, I thought just for fun and games we would do cursed books.
Oh, I've
It's
heard about a
Halloween.
few.
Yes, and some of them are
Actually,
quite
it's
fun.
it's basically Christmas.
Christmas?
It's Christmas. It's November. Accept it. Halloween is done. It's gone for boom. Shakalang.
No, it is not. We are
Yeah.
finishing off our Halloween. We still got till the end of the week. Christmas is miles away. Miles and miles and
We don't
miles.
work in miles. We work in meters and kilometers. So
Well, you might be right. Nevertheless, that is what we are doing today. And I think it's going to be a good one. Some of them are real, some of them are not real. But we're going to talk about them
oh no, I
anyway.
have to go to bed.
So,
I
you're.
have to go to bed. I'm so sorry. Bye.
It's quite all right. You have a good evening. Sleep well. So, with that, to start ourselves off, I'm going to remind everybody that on this channel we have but one rule, and that is don't be rude or disruptive. As long as you are not rude, you can have any opinion you like, and we encourage you to comment all of your opinions in the comments. We do this just for the fun and games of it, the interest thereof, and just to amuse ourselves and learn a little bit of something. So do like, share, subscribe, do all of the good things that help keep the channel going, because without you guys, we can't go anywhere. But that said, welcome to all of you who have joined in. Thank you for being a part of the live. And let's get started now. Of course, for those of you who are gamers, the first interesting set of books we're going to talk about actually come from a game which is proving to be hugely popular, but with a heck of a lot of people. It's certainly stayed the course more than most, and I'm referring, of course, to the Elder Scrolls, and it has a number of itinerations and more. And the first two books, obviously, they are not real, and they come from the Elder Scrolls. Hey there to Hart, welcome, welcome. James, welcome. So the Elder Scrolls. The first one is, in fact, the Elder Scrolls, and what makes them most interesting and so fitting to the theme of a suitably terrifying text, if you will, is the fact that you're talking about something which is, at least within the game lore, so powerful that it commands even the gods, and even they don't exactly know what the Elder Scrolls are, and for that alone it puts them suitably in a rank, if you will, of books to be wary of, something out there that maybe is just far too powerful to be permitted in the world as we know it. And I think that's a pretty fair description for a properly cursed book in that regard. Not to be trusted, shall we say. The second one also comes from the Elder Scrolls and shows how books can be more than you might think, and it sets the tone, if you will, for the ones of this world. And that is, of course, the Black Books of Hermaeus Mora. Now, if you're a fan of the Elder Scrolls, of any of the versions, currently offline it's Skyrim, online of course you have ESO, but of all the gods, the least trustworthy by and large is Hermaeus Mora, because his aims and opinions are just not the same as anybody's. And one wonders precisely what these black books are that he has created, and whether or not they might possibly not be more than you think. Now, they give great power within the game, many great abilities, and it sounds fantastic in and of itself, but maybe not so safe as you might think. And as I say, that gives us a tone, if you will, for the books that we are going to look at. Now, we have a number of them, some of them are real, some of them not real. But they show both the fascination that we have with horror, danger, and all the rest of it. And this has been true throughout the entirety of history, if you will. But along with that, there has been some really interesting ones to talk about. Now, of the real books, you have things like the Codex Gigas, which is a truly massive manuscript, so huge it takes 2 people to lift it. And it is said to be one of the most cursed books in existence. And it is a real book, which is even more creepy. We also have the Grand Grimoire, and we will have to talk about grimoires as well. Imagine if you could get access to the Vatican Vault. Well, I actually went and looked into that once, because I have the right to get into the first part of the Vatican Library, because I have a couple of degrees through the Urban University of Rome. However, when I went to see what it would take to get within the vault itself, it turns out that no, even having degrees there only allows you access to the ordinary library, which is cut off from everybody else. To get into the vault, you have to have at the very least a master's degree, and even then you're restricted. A professor's degree for a lot of it, and only by request of a very specific book. You can't just go in and look around. You have to ask for a book and have a reason to look at it. And there are certain books that nobody is allowed to see. So one does wonder what actually is down there. There are lots of stories, lots of legends, but nobody has ever actually said for certain that might actually know. So yeah, I would like to know. There are stories. There are a number of texts, as you can imagine, that have been found throughout history, and you get a little addendum that says, oh, it was put in the Vatican Library. And that's the last you ever hear of them. And some of them are truly creepy. So yeah, just the known ones are pretty bad. So what about the ones that you don't know? It's a fair question. And I do believe, in fact, the Grand Grimoire is one of the ones that is in the archives, the original book, and it is, as they say, unavailable to the public, which pretty much means everybody. You also have the Malleus Maleficarium, the famous and quite terrifying hammer of witches, which, contrary to what you might think, is not a book of witchcraft, but a book against witchcraft. And apparently it's really quite awful. It's one of those ones I'd like to have a read of, but you've never quite got ways of finding out what might be in there. We also have, of course, the Book of Suiga, which is another interesting one, owned by some famous people, including the famous scholar and possible Kabbalistic sorcerer John Dee. Now, one entity, apparently, that Dee spoke to said that anybody who deciphered the final 36 pages would guaranteed die within 2.5 years. And they say, to this day, these pages have never been deciphered. So absolutely something. Now, other books to chat about, including the Necronomicon, it's a mouthful for you, also known as the Kitab al-Azif. Then, of course, your general Book of Shadows, and, of course, the Sutter Kane novels, amongst others. So we've got a whole lot to look at of suitable creepiness. But within all of those, there are certain books that really stand out as being truly, truly just creepy on a level, yeah, I'm not sure I would even want to try to read them. So, the narrative of the life of James Allen, very prosaic title, written in 1837, the deathbed confessions of James Allen, a 19th century highwayman from Massachusetts, and a copy of his printed memoirs was bound in his own skin after he was executed. How creepy would you like to go? The book was then gifted to John Fenno, the man who had resisted Allen's attempts to rob him, and the only known book bound with human skin that was bound with the consent of the source. Before being bequeathed to the Athenaeum, Fenno's copy was reportedly kept in the family home, and quite creepily, even worse, if you will, was used to spank his children. I mean, can you spell trauma? Right there. The contents, I don't know. As a highwayman, he was probably a fairly nasty fellow, but good Lord. Spooky stream of thoughts and Sally Spectra. Welcome, welcome to you. I hope you're having a fine evening. We are doing creepy books in both myth and reality. And as was pointed out by our good friend Rogue, one wonders which ones are in the Vatican Library and what else might be down there. And of course, there's quite a lot that we don't know and will never know, it seems, unless somebody just stops the entirety of the Catholic Church and just raids their library, which I think is highly unlikely. They do say that some of the highest trained soldiers in the world are the Swiss Guard. I wouldn't want to try it. Yes, creepy books. So, thank you so much for the likes. These ones are creepy because of their binding. Bound in human skin. So, Les Troches de Pain, poème allégorique dédié à Monseigneur et Madame de Lorraine. Quite a mouthful of a title that comes from the 16th century. This is in fact a book of BDSM-inspired erotic poetry, which is indeed bound in human skin. Why? I don't know. The contents in and of themselves sound suitably worrying just right off bat. But yeah. Would you even want to pick up a book bound in human skin? Others, which is in fact in the College of Physicians in Philadelphia, Recueil des Secrets, a compilation of contemporary folk remedies by Boursier, the midwife to the court, shortly following the retreat from court facing pressure from male physicians. The book is bound in human skin and is from the collection of John Stockton Hugh, a 19th century physician and bibliophile who bound 3 books, believe it or not, in the skin of Mary Lynch, an impoverished young Irish emigre he autopsied in 1869 and diagnosed with Philadelphia's first recorded case of trichinosis. I mean, clearly the guy had issues. Others include Les Nouvelles Découvertes sur tous les parties principales de l'homme et de la femme, which was one of the other books bound in Lynch's skin, along with speculations on the mode and appearances of the impregnation in the human female, which was the 3rd book bound in Lynch's skin. So right off bat, we've got some suitably awful covers to books. Now, it wasn't the only ones. He didn't bind all of the others, but he got his hands on De Conception Adversaria, also in the College of Physicians of Philadelphia, written by Charles Drelincourt in 1686. Again, bound in human skill. He seemed to enjoy this because he had several books bound in human skin, which really and truly makes you wonder what kind of a doctor he was. I think I'm very glad I didn't have him as my physician. It really does get a little bit out of hand. Many medical texts on the list of those bound in human skin, which really are quite terrifying. We know that there's collections of poetry as well. There's one from 1773, the poetry of Phyllis Wheatley, which is in the Cincinnati Public Library. I don't know whether they will let you see it or touch it, but apparently it was the thing to do. There's one from 1526 called the Dance of Death, written by Hans Holbein the Younger, which include woodcuts and all. And they say these also. It is really quite awful, isn't it, there, Dot? Do I look spooky? Ha ha. Well, thank you. We are doing a spooky thing tonight, so I've got to look the parts. But then I have to wear my hood because apparently it's a thing and therefore it's now to be done. So, creepy books. These ones are generally ordinary books on medical stuff, if you will, but nevertheless being bound in human skin. There's an interesting one which one of our famous horror writers from history from 1843, it is from the private collection of somebody writing a story by Edgar Allan Poe, and we know Poe is absolutely quite a creepy writer. And this is the story The Gold Bug. And it was one of his major breakthrough novels. So quite a thing, but nevertheless bound in human skin. How creepy is it? Well, suitably creepy, and we haven't even got into the really awful books yet. These are just ordinary books that are creepy. But on the list, one which we have to mention as well, because there's quite a lot. This is actually a Nazi photo album from Auschwitz. So, yeah, dodgy as hell. And, yep, bound in human skin. Past your bedtime? Well, I wouldn't keep you up, but thank you for stopping in. But yeah, this is absolutely, when I started it out, I thought it would be more fun than anything else, and it's proved to be a far creepier subject than I previously thought it would be. I'm quite impressed at how creepy people actually are. There's even a number of Bibles which have been bound in human skin, and yeah, I don't know, it makes you wonder. So with that aside, we are going to jump to the next kind of creepy book, and that is, of course, the concept of the grimoire. Now, grimoire is, of course, a book of magic or spells, a spell book, and there are a great many of them that, well, I mean, you can get them online even. They include all kinds of different instructions and magic and all the rest of it, but the term grimoire is, of course, European, and it seems that the origin of the word, as I said, is that it comes from Old French. We know that the word grammar comes from a similar root, but it seems that this kind of meant incomprehensible. And this was really because almost all books originally were A, written in Latin, and B, the average person simply couldn't read or write. So books were utterly incomprehensible. But through general use, it developed to become a book that was secret or occult, and therefore a book of magic. So it entered the English language in that way as being a book of magic rather than just an incomprehensible book. Now, over history, of course, huge numbers of countries and cultures absolutely did write scrolls, books, parchments, and more on magic. We know that the earliest known written versions are in cuneiform from Mesopotamia that were written on clay tablets excavated from the city of Uruk, probably from the 5th to 4th centuries BC. We know the ancient Egyptians used things like that all the time and wrote them on scrolls, walls, and more. Heka was their magical system, absolutely. We know that the Macedonians also used as well. Hellenistic Egypt used Coptic writing system and opened the Library of Alexandria, and this of course included a whole lot of magical books as well as medical books. But remember, at the time magic and medicine were quite often linked. We know that the legendary Hermes Trismegistus had a number which he claimed at least were dictated to him by the god Thoth. Hermes, of course, also had a number of books that were supposedly dictated by him. That would be the Greek god. We know that Zoroaster was supposed to have a number of books written. The ancient Jews had all kinds of things that went along with their version of magic as well. King Solomon, of course, is linked to all kinds of things, including the greater and lesser keys of Solomon. Whether or not they were really written by him is another story entirely, but nevertheless, it's absolutely true to say that these were considered to be books of great danger and even of terror, and only to be handled by the right people. And indeed, owning some of them could, at the time, absolutely get you executed as a witch. We know that Heinrich Cornelius Agrippa in the 14th to 15th century was said to have written 3 books on occult philosophy. So absolutely, there's been a huge amount that have gone around. Of course, in the modern day, you can get all kind. But as we go along, let's start with one which has a really fascinating backstory, which is the Codex Gigas, also known as the Devil's Bible. Now, this book is seriously a book. It is a 165-pound book, or for us in South Africa, 75 kilograms. It takes 2 people to pick it up and carry it. It is the world's largest surviving medieval illuminated manuscript, made of 310 pages of vellum, probably calfskin. Now, there is argument about its writing, because the official stance is it would have taken 20 to 30 years to create. It is a comprehensive collection of text, including both the Old and the New Testaments, historical chronicles, medical and legal treatises, magical spells, and a calendar. The most weird or interesting part is that there is a massive full-page illustration of the devil, and opposite on the facing page, weirdly, a picture of the heavenly city. Why? We're not sure. Now, why do I say how long it took to write it was in debate? Well, here is the story, the legend, and more. So the manuscript was created in a Benedictine monastery in Bohemia, which is the modern-day Czech Republic, somewhere between 1204 and 1230. It was taken from Prague by the Swedish army as war booty during the 30 Years' War, and was transferred to the National Library of Sweden in Stockholm in 1878. Currently, it is on display in the National Library of Sweden, though it is kept closed, just so you know. So it was written, according to the story, by Herman the Recluse, who wrote the entire book in a single night by making a pact with the devil. It is examined by experts who say that the consistent handwriting implies that it is the work of a single scribe. But it must have taken a very, very long time, they say. Is that true? Is it not true? Well, let's have a look. It has a length of 92 centimeters, a Romanesque Latin Bible with text and secular writings added in the second half of the book. Very large illuminated Bibles were typical of the monastic book production, but even among these, the Codex Gigas is exceptional. There is a full-page portrait of Satan, and the legend surrounding the book's creation says that he was involved in its making. We do know that the book is not very illustrated compared to most books of the time. It was created in the early 13th century by the Benedictines. It has the complete Vulgate version of the Bible, and other things all written in Latin, including a selection of popular reference works such as Flavius Josephus' Antiquities of the Jews, the Jewish War, and Isidore of Seville's Encyclopedia Etymologiae, as well as a whole ton of other things. So the book is made with wooden covers covered in leather, ornate metal guards and fittings. So a huge, huge book. Now, vellum, for those of you who don't know, is carefully prepared calfskin, which was popular for writing on when making a serious book. We know that the capital letters are often illuminated and are quite beautiful in their own way, with lots of colours in reds and blues and golds and more. So very, very interesting. Now, the illustration of the devil is a bit of a dodgy one. By modern standards, I suppose we would consider it fairly tame. But is that the case? Well, I suppose for the time it was truly terrible. According to the legend, Herman the Recluse was in this Benedictine monastery of Podlazic near Krast in Bohemia, which was destroyed in the 15th century during the Hussite Revolution. But there is a marker there. Now, the codex was pawned by the Benedictines to the Cistercian monks of Sedlec Abbey, today a former Catholic monastery renowned for housing the Sedlec ossuary, and it remained there for 70 years and was thereafter reclaimed by the Benedictines. Now, the legend was recorded as far back as the Middle Ages. And according to what was said, the scribe was a Christian monk who broke his monastic vows in some way unspecified. And the sentence that was given him was that he would be walled up alive. Now, to avoid his fate, he promised to create in one night a book to glorify the monastery forever, including all human knowledge. But as midnight approached, he became desperate, and forsaking his vows a second time, he prayed to Lucifer to help him finish the book in exchange for his soul. The devil completed the manuscript in that night before midnight, and the monk added the devil's picture by way of tribute. In tests to recreate the work, of course, it would have taken at least 20 years of non-stop writing. So maybe there's truth to the story that in fact it was written for the monk by the devil himself. A fairly creepy book. Now, next one on the list is the Grand Grimoire, also known as Le Dragon Rouge, or the Red Dragon. And this one is a grimoire, not a Bible. It is a black magic, goetic grimoire with varying additions over the centuries to the books. It's a fascinating one. The book even has an introductory chapter written by Antonio Veneziana del Rabinia, who said he had gathered the information from original writings of King Solomon. Now, many of the material comes from the Key of Solomon and the Lesser Key of Solomon, which are at least attributed to King Solomon. And of course, the first book contains the instructions for summoning Lucifer. The purpose being to form a deal with the devil and gain power. There are two books within the one codex, so you get your summonings and more, and then it moves on to all kinds of magic and power, and it is fairly evil in its intent, which makes it fit our list. The book describes several demons and the rituals to summon them, to make a pact with them, as well as spells for winning the lottery, talking to spirits, being loved, making yourself invisible, and more. So all kinds of different things. Now, this, of course, has inspired all sorts of stuff, including the 2007 novel God's Demon by Wayne Barlow. We know that 2014-2015, the second season of Fox's TV series Sleepy Hollow presents the Grand Grimoire as being once owned by John Dee and coveted by an evil warlock named Solomon Kent. So it's kicked into a number of interesting modern stories as well. Now, the next interesting one is awful, not because it was written for evil, but perhaps because it was written for good and yet did so much evil. So that is the Hammer of Witches, the Hexenhammer, the Malleus Maleficarium. So, known as the Hammer of Witches, it was a treatise about witchcraft written by the German Catholic clergyman Heinrich Kramer. And it was published in the German city of Speyer in 1486. It is a compendium of pre-existing demonological literature from the 15th century, presenting his text as the official position of the Roman Catholic Church. It was condemned by top theologians of the Inquisition at the Faculty of Cologne for its recommending illegal procedures and for being inconsistent with Roman Catholic doctrine of demonology. However, Kramer received praise for his work by Pope Innocent the Eighth, which really, Pope Innocent? I think not. But in his papal bull, Summis Desiderantis Affectibus, and a papal bull is a very serious document. So Kramer was never removed and enjoyed considerable prestige because of this. Now, the Malleus calls every sorcery heresy, and it was already a crime at the time, and it recommends that secular courts prosecute it as such. The Malleus suggests torture to get confessions, and death is the only way to end the evils of witchcraft. When it was published, heretics were often sentenced to be burned alive at the stake, and the Malleus suggested the same for witches, despite or perhaps being condemned by some members of the church. It was hugely popular, which is really quite creepy. Jakob Sprenger was a known person at the time, around 1519, and he was credited as a co-author, though exactly what he may have done is subject to debate. It was revived by the royal courts during the Renaissance, which resulted in the 16th and 17th century witch hunts. Now, interestingly enough, the burning of witches was not common world over at all. Apparently, hanging or drowning was a preferred method of execution, but in Germany, burning was, and I believe France as well. So it was used quite literally to drive in their politics of the day, and it is said that possibly thousands of people were executed through the use of this book. So in and of itself, it became a book of true evil because of how it was used, and how, worse, it was used with the intent to promote goodness, which is really kind of screwed up if you think about it. Yeah. Now, the next interesting one is the Book of Suiga, also titled the Aldaraya, a 16th century Latin treatise on magic, one copy of which was owned by John Dee himself. And after John Dee's death, the book was thought lost until 1994, where two manuscripts were found in the British Library and in the Bodleian Library, which shows how many books these damn places have that they don't tell you about. Makes you wonder what people hide and why. The contents, such as they are, seems to include 197 pages with more than one work in it. The Liber Aldaraya, the Liber Radiorum, the Liber Decimus Septimus, and 36 tables of letters, which is interesting. There is a shorter version which they have as well. There are incantations and instructions on magic, astrology, demonology, lists of conjunctions, lunar mansions, names and genealogies of angels, and the 36 large squares of letter, which Dee was unable to decipher. Otherwise unknown magical treaties are cited in it, including the Liber E, the Liber Os, the Liber Dignus, the Liber Sepal, and the Liber Munob, but nobody knows what those are. Endless Thoughts, hello! How are you? Are you in fine and fabulous form? Thank you so much for the heart. I do appreciate greatly. Heart me. Dum dum dum. So yeah, tonight we're doing creepy books, real ones and fake ones from stories. Huge thanks for all of those kind roses. That is wondrous. I do appreciate that. Roses are lit up all due to the kindness of one and our life goal achieved. What an absolute bunny she is. Thank you so much. It seems that we've scared off a couple of people that did join the live. So maybe creepy books are too scary for people. Nevertheless, this book is real. It does exist. It is a Kabbalic book in that regard, if that makes any difference. And what's interesting is that it contains quite a lot of stuff that are considered Christian magic, which goes to show how weird things can get to be. We know that John Dee had the largest library in England at the time, all through his personal funds, consisting of at least 3,000 printed volumes and a large number of original manuscripts. While he was overseas on the continent, though, a number of people stole from it, and he was forced to sell quite a lot as well. And the library was ransacked after his death until nothing remained. So his original books sort of got lost, really and truly, which is kind of sad. But amongst other things, he did get a copy of the Book of Suiga. He claimed to have questioned the angel Uriel about the book and asked for guidance. And Uriel revealed to him that the book had been given initially to Adam in paradise by the angels and could only be interpreted by the archangel Michael. The lettering tables in the back have a very interesting mathematical formula, which in the modern day a chap called Jim Reeds managed to work out, starting with the seed word for each given table, and identified errors of certain types made by the manuscript's scribes. A subset of errors were common to two copiers, suggesting they were derived from a common ancestor that contained the original errors, and therefore it is a copy of a copy of a copy. Now, deciphering the code words used in crafting the tables, what they were for still remains mysterious. The Book of Suiga says that the tables come from and are explained in the Liber Radiorum, but we don't have that book. So it is absolutely an interesting, if slightly creepy one. Christian magic, who would have thought?
My little pony was brave.
And now we have My Little Pony. But not tonight, my dear. I'm afraid that My Little Pony is not required on the channel, as kind as it is to share. So, and that counts as being disruptive, and they are therefore banned. There's always one. So, the next interesting one are the 3 books of occult philosophy by Heinrich Cornelius Agrippa. And this is a collection exactly of what the title says. It apparently was printed in Köln, in Paris, and in Antwerp in around 1531. So they deal with the elemental, celestial, and intellectual magic. There are 4 elements. There is astrology, there is the Kabbalah, numerology, angelology, and weirdly enough, and I didn't know this was a thing, but supposedly it is, the names of God. Who would have thought of that? Did you know that God has names that are important? I did not, but he does apparently. They were common, important things for anybody that wanted to learn magic at the time, including alchemy, scrying, ceremonial magic, and the origins are from Hebrew magic, Greek magic, and Chaldean magic, apparently. So if you wanted to be an up-and-coming wizard of the time, these were books you absolutely have to have. I have, in fact, read parts of them, and I can tell you they are very complicated, very mathematical, and very difficult to read. I personally would say that I wouldn't want to have to know them for being a magician. They are very, very complicated. They're more for the mathematical magician, if you will. 3 books, because 3 levels of cosmos and 3 forms of magic, each focusing on one realm of existence: the elemental world, the celestial world, and the divine world. The hidden magics, virtues, and more. The noble magic, not the superstitious story of common oiks. Oh no, I'm terribly sorry to hear that. I do hope you feel better soon. Do not overheat. Hydrate, hydrate, hydrate. But have an absolutely amazing night. Thank you so much for stopping by. It is always a pleasure to have you on board. So yes, huge hugs and have a wonderful evening. And thank you again for the support and the likes. You are, as always, a huge darling. I do appreciate it greatly. So, why would these books be so important or so bad? Well, they imply that by proper methodologies, you can bind and control angels, draw on the power of God himself, and bring yourself onto a path that leads to divinity, all within harmony with the Christian faith. I would be a little dubious in that regard, but it was a thing of the time, and they say that this is the correct way to approach improving humanity. I think it is probably not within the faith or canon of the Christian churches that you should do this. So I'm going to throw it out there that maybe don't try this at home, children. Just saying. But nevertheless, as we progress with creepy books, let's move along to one which sadly isn't real at all, though a great many people think that it is. And indeed, there are a number of versions of it that you can buy on the internet, which is pretty weird given that the book never existed. So it was created for use in his stories by H.P. Lovecraft. It was known as the Book of the Dead, the Necronomicon. It is a grimoire of dark rituals, ancient magics, forbidden knowledge, and contains the secrets of cosmic horrors. So, for example, in case you didn't know, Cthulhu is not a historical deity, being, demon, or anything. It never was. It was invented by H.P. Lovecraft for one of his stories. So the whole idea of Cthulhu, which has taken the horror world by storm, as has the Necronomicon, I'm afraid is entirely not real, but has become so beloved in a way that people have literally made it, which makes you wonder. So it was the centerpiece of the Cthulhu mythos, a shared literary universe that not only did he write in, but he encouraged other authors to expand, which is a very interesting way of going about things, and it worked. It's supposed to contain all of these ancient eldritch beings, and the mere touching of it could be detrimental to your soul. According to the fiction, the author is the mad Arab Abdul Azhazared, who wrote it in the 8th century. The lore details multiple supposed translations of the book, a Greek one, which gave it its name, the Necronomicon, meaning the Book of the Laws of the Dead. Now, it's become such a trope in horror that it's been adapted into books, films, media, art. You go and look on things like Discord, and oh hell yeah, you will find so many interesting stories about the Necronomicon, and amazing artwork as well. It's really quite impressive. So not real, but incredibly influential and powerful. It was first mentioned in Lovecraft's short story, The Hound, which was written in 1922. And the mad Arab was quoted a year earlier in his The Nameless City. And of course, the big deal was, it was all about, in all of his stories, was all about the old ones, their history and the means to summon them, and their dark desires on the earthly realm. Now, we know that other authors used Lovecraft's idea freely and was supported by Lovecraft, and built up a background of evil verisimilitude. So he wanted it to appear real, even though it wasn't. And many readers have believed it to be a real work. And what with everything people have even listed it on rare book catalogs. And at Yale University Library, there is a card in the card catalogue for it, even though it's not actually there. Real life publishers have printed a number of books called the Necronomicon simply because of this. Now, why did he make this up? Why that name? Well, Lovecraft said it came to him in a dream, which implies maybe he had some funky dreams. I'm just saying. He absolutely also said that the idea came from other places. But Lovecraft himself noted that mouldy hidden manuscripts are the stock in trade for Gothic literature, and he's not wrong in that. Now, the name comes from the Greek nekros, meaning dead, and akon, meaning law or image. Akon meaning image, my Greek is failing me, and nomos meaning law. So, nekros nomos akon, which he elided into Necronomicon. Now, he speaks of it in a lot of things, and not only did he create the idea of the book, he created an entire fictitious history to make it as real as possible for this kind of story. And yeah, that's what happened. It has become so in modern understanding as being a real book, even though it isn't, which implies he created exactly what he wanted. Now, the next things that's interesting are the Sutter Kane novels. Now, what are the Sutter Kane novels? Well, they include a number of books like the In the Mouth of Madness, which was a supernatural horror book and film done by John Carpenter, apparently, about this insurance investigator, John Trent, who visits a small town while looking for the disappearance of a successful author. And he starts questioning his sanity as it goes along. Now, the author, of course, in the book is the writer of the Sutter Kane novels. So they don't exist at all. But nevertheless, these books are supposed to be ones that change the fate of reality by reading them alone. And of course, right away you see the connection, because it will bring the return of the old ones, Lovecraftian horror, right there. And as things go along, a portal opens through these books, and portal open, old ones emerge, you have to escape, and all kinds of monstrous things are happening. But John finds himself having escaped. He destroys the manuscript, but when he goes back to the town, they deny any knowledge of the books or of the lady that was there or helping him as like a seer type thing. So it was a pretty cool story and absolutely fit into the Lovecraftian theme, if you will. Fairly good at movie, fairly good actors. Now, we know, of course, that Another one which is really creepy but is real is the Book of Enoch, written apparently quite a while back. It's written in Hebrew, the Sefer Enoch. It's an apocalyptic religious text written by the patriarch Enoch, who was apparently the father of Methuselah and the great-grandfather of Noah. It contains material on the origins of demons, of the Nephilim, why some angels fell from heaven, an explanation of why the Genesis flood was necessary, and a prophetic exposition of the 1,000-year reign of the Messiah. They are attributed to Enoch, along with 2 Enoch and 3 Enoch. 1 Enoch is not canonical scripture in either the Christian or Jewish churches, but interestingly is canonical in the Ethiopian Jewish community, the Beta Israel, along with a number of others, as well as in the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. So they still keep it. It was written somewhere between 300 to 200 BCE, with the latest part, the Book of Parables, in 100 BCE, written either in Aramaic or Hebrew. It's not entirely clear. One sec, end of thoughts is correct. I am absolutely boiling away. So we are going to take off the heavy hood, but I will be a good person and keep my hood on because it is a requirement for the live. But we are going to go with the much lighter summer hood. There we go. And possibly better for the live in that regard. So the Book of Enoch is one that was found written in Aramaic among the Dead Sea Scrolls, so it may have been in Hebrew before that. The Book of Daniel was similar in style, which gives us a little insight into the Book of Enoch and when it may have been actually written. It is cited in the Epistle of Jude, which might also connect to parts of Deuteronomy. We're not sure. We know that it includes the fall of the Watchers, the angels who fathered the angel-human hybrids called Nephilim. Enoch reveals visits he made to heaven. So you've got the Book of Watchers, the Book of Parables of Enoch, the astronomical book, the Book of Dreams and Visions, and the Epistle of Enoch. It's really quite strange, and it involves all kinds of stories and things which are kind of creepy. So it gets on our list. But it is absolutely a very real book, even if people do not accept it. Now, our next one is a rather awful book, which endorses the practice of witch hunting, and it's believed to be one of the main sources used by William Shakespeare in his production of Macbeth, believe it or not, and this is the Daemonology. Now, exactly what this book is, well, James VI and first as a philosophical dissertation published this book on contemporary necromancy, and the historical relationships between the various methods of divination used from ancient black magic. It was reprinted in 1603 when James took the throne of England, and the widespread consensus is that King James wrote the book in response to skeptical publications by Reginald Scott in his The Discovery of Witchcraft. It includes the study of demonology, the methods demons use to bother troubled men, and endorses strongly the practice of witch hunting. The idea of it was that you should go find them and obviously unalive the lot of them because witches are bad. That's really the bottom line of the book. The fearful aboundings at this time in this country of these detestable slaves of the devil, the witches or enchanted, has moved me, beloved reader, to dispatch in post a following treatise of mine, to resolve the doubting, both that such assaults of Satan are most certainly practiced, and that the instrument thereof merits most severely to be punished. So the idea behind this book is exactly like the Malleus Maleficarium, the idea of promoting good through some pretty evil things, mostly including the unaliving of people. So yeah, it comes in 3 books bound together. An examination of the magical arts from the point of view of somebody who was not involved in them. The difference between biblical proof and imagination, and the description of sorcery and witchcraft, the path and curses of a sorcerer's apprenticeship, the role of Satan and more. And then in book 3, the demons are under the direct supervision of God and are unable to act without God's permission. He shows how God uses demonic forces as a rod of correction when men stray from his will. It's a little mad, and it involves all sorts of things. So an absolutely creepy book used to do very creepy things. Now along with that, we've got a couple of famous ones, the Lesser Key of Solomon and the Greater Key of Solomon, 2 books which probably were not written by Solomon. They are made up of multiple books which you may or may not have heard of. So the Lesser Key is the Ars Goetica, the Ars Theurgica, the Ars Paulina, and the Ars Almada. And the idea is to find, bind, and control demons to your will, and improve your life through the use of these evil things. And it's said that this is what Solomon did with the blessing of God. I do wonder about that. The next interesting book is the Dictionnaire Infernal, the Infernal Dictionary, a book entirely designed, frankly, to explain demons and demonology. An infernal dictionary written by Jacques Collin de Plancy, published in 1818, and used entirely to become powerful, to get revenge on people through the use of demons and more. It explains all the different beings, characters, books, deeds, and more, which are of the manifestation for magic. Whether or not any of it is real, we have to doubt. But it seems that if you're into weirdness, there is that. Now, of course, we can't talk about creepy books without talking about one which is probably the most well known by everybody, and that was the one written by Anton LaVey, the Satanic Bible. What was he thinking, and why? He was a bit of a cook, let's be fair. It's a collection of essays, observations, and rituals published by Anton LaVey in 1969, and is the central religious text of LaVeyan Satanism, considered the foundation of its philosophy and dogma, and the entire point of it is to be the counter to the Christian Bible and Christianity in general. It is the sacred scripture of Satanism. It has led to all kinds of different things. It is banned in a number of countries. It's considered to be a fairly awful book that should never be read. It is influential, absolutely. Though the content is obviously criticizable and disproved. Why? Well, I suppose LaVey was a high priest of whatever Church of Satan he was in or leading or whatever. And he wanted something that would be suitable to it. He used to write a bulletin, just like a church bulletin, called the Cloven Hoof. He was a bit of a nut, but interesting because he does draw from notable other figures like Aleister Crowley, it draws on Ayn Rand, of all people. If you've ever read Atlas Shrugged, yeah, he draws on that. So LaVeyan Satanism, if you really want to be creeped out, that's the book. That said, let's talk about something that is not real, but is one of those things that you've got to sort of think in a way. And that's from the manga Death Note. What exactly is Death Note? Death Note is a story about a book that was found, whereby it's a notebook. It's found by a school kid, and if you write the name of somebody in the book, then that person will guaranteed die. And so this kid starts making lists of people that he requires to be unalived. And the reason this one makes the list is because it's a suitably creepy idea. Can you imagine a preteen with that much power, that all he would have to do is write your name in the book and you're done? And of course that's the theme of the entire story, which I'm told is really good. I have not watched it, I will be honest. But it's a suitably creepy concept in that regard, nevertheless. And so it makes our list as well. Now, as we progress with suitably creepy, we are going to point out that the idea for Death Note comes from the Japanese concept of kotodama, word spirit. The idea that there are powers in words, a soul to language, a power to language, the idea of a power word, a sacred sound. And the Japanese, of course, are not the only ones with this notion. sounds can affect objects and that the right word spoken influences the environment, body, mind, and soul. Some say that this is actually really true. I don't know if you guys remember back in a bit that there was a Japanese scientist that did a whole lot of tests with water. This is the exact thing, Kotodama. Am I all right? I'm always right. Do not fear. We just like weird, wonderful, and creepy things. So there may be some truth to this. We know that in martial arts, the Japanese martial arts, you have the kiai, which is used. That is a form of kotodama. We know that in a lot of other cultures, you have mantras and more that are used to promote. So maybe there is some truth to it. Who's to say? Nevertheless, as we progress, and by the way, for some reason the internet has crashed around midnight every night, 3 nights in a row. So hopefully we'll be able to keep going. But if we can't, that's why. We have no reason given to us why. Nothing was sent out from our internet providers at all. It just, over the entire area. Who knows? Nevertheless. Now the next interesting one again is a real one, and this one is weird. Creepy because nobody really understands it. It is in equal amounts deeply coherent and utterly misunderstood. And I'm referring to the 15th century illustrated codex called the Voynich manuscript, which is written in an unknown language which nobody has ever deciphered. It's vellum. It's been carbon dated and is said to have been written somewhere between 1404 and 1438, which is quite specific. There are illustrations of all sorts of things depicting bizarre plants, astrological symbols, random naked women. The manuscript was acquired by the rare book dealer Wilfrid Voynich in 1912, which is how it got its name. The content is divided into sections based on the illustrations: botanical, cosmological, astronomical, a unique section just for the naked women. We're not sure why. And this book, it may have been created in Italy, but nobody's really certain. Wilfrid Voynich was a Polish rare book dealer, and he got his hands on it somehow. And there is evidence that the ownership of it dates back to the Holy Roman Emperor Rudolf II in the 16th century, which makes it pretty old. It's now kept at the Yale University's Beinecke Rare Book and Manuscript Library. Now, what makes it really interesting? Well, let's show you a little bit of it, because we can. Oik. And of course we can't, because it has not allowed us to save it for some strange reason. I wonder why. Well, we shall make it so that it can be done, because after all, what's the point of the internet if we do not internalize? So let's pull up a quick and hopefully suitable picky. This, by the way, is not my picture at all. I stole it to show you. And no, in case you're wondering we are not going to be showing you the pornographical sections in that regard. We are only going to show you some of the botanical, because after all, that would not be a good thing. Or maybe it would, I don't know what you guys think. But this is the Voynich manuscript. Now, you might wonder why I say it's both incomprehensible and comprehensible at the same time. And the answer is this. The sections are very logical: herbal, astronomical, biological, cosmological, pharmaceutical, recipes, complete with bullet notes and more. It is possibly an encoded natural language. The linguistic structure is there. It appears to follow linguistic rules like word length, character distribution, just like any other language. So it's not gibberish. But the problem is nobody can figure out what it is, up to and including the famous World War II cryptologists William and Elizabeth Friedman and Alan Turing. And those guys were pretty damn clever. If they can't figure it out, well, I'm not sure we ever will. They say that it might be an encoded natural language. It could be a constructed language made for the specific point. Some say that it was an elaborate medieval joke. But given how much effort was put in, that seems a bit odd. Some say it might have been a medical or alchemical text, which is sensible, because the categories seem to fit that. Now, a lot of people have tried to decipher it. Some have claimed to decipher it, but nobody has ever been able to make provable sense of this. We know that it is absolutely real. It is absolutely strange. And many of the pictures of the animals and plants in it simply don't exist that we know of. So what is going on? We just don't have an answer for you. It has been studied by professionals, by cryptographers, code breakers from World War I and World War II, Prescott Currier, William Friedman, John Tiltman and more, and nobody has been successful trying to explain what it says or what it's supposed to be about. It seems that there are pages missing because the pages are numbered. And this implies that where the numbers are skipped, somebody's taken pages out. Why? We don't know. It's made from different materials. It's parchment made from vellum. It was not written on before the manuscript was created, so it was made fresh. The quality of parchment is good, not great, which is common. But it's prepared with a huge amount of care. It's at least 14 or 15 entire calf skins to make it. Varied thickness. There is goatskin binding and covers, which are not original to the book. There are insect holes present in the first and last pages, which suggest that it originally had a wooden cover, and these were taken off to preserve. The ink is a standard one. a quill pen and iron gall ink were used. So, yeah, it's very, very well made. The colorings and things are made from quite expensive materials. Ground azurite for the blue. The white is made from egg white. The green is a copper base. The red is red ochre with hematite. I mean, they put a lot of effort into making this text, and it really is incredible and utterly and completely impossible to know what on earth it says. They have tried to put it to letters, but yeah, there you go. We just don't know. So with that said, the suitably weird and creepy books, now I'm sure there are a great many more, and some of them go darker and darker, but nevertheless, those are the top ones that we found that were interesting. Creepy as they are, strange as they are, and definitely a suitable horror ending in many ways to our Halloween season, because it seems that we are going to have to look on the creepy and the awful for Christmas next. So yeah, we will see what we can find. But for those of you who are here, thank you for having been here. It would have been great to have some more than just the people that always do liking and sharing and subscribing. It seems we rely on the few to support the many, despite the fact that many come to watch. It's kind of sad in that regard, but I suppose it is what it is. And with all of that, we have reached the end of our creepy books. I hope you enjoyed it. You are certainly welcome to come again, and I certainly do hope that you have a wondrous evening further. It's been great. It's been awesome to have you on. As always, huge thanks to Spooky Stream of Thoughts, a great friend and a good supporter of the channel. Much thanks for Pancho, Andrekea, Grim Walker, Menir D, and Leon LaRue, who graced us with a certain amount of presence for quite a while. I do appreciate it. Thanks for the support, guys, and at least we have managed to reach the end of our live, and with that, I'm going to do my level best to end it the way we normally do. And if there are topics and things you would like to hear more about, please let me know. Drop me a DM, send me some knowledge, if you will. And with all of that, I shall bid you good night. Sleep well, sleep deep, sleep sweet, but sleep with one eye open, because as we well know, there are a great many things then that go bump in the night, and if we are not careful, they might indeed go bump for you. Have a wonderful evening.